And welcome back. Have you ever noticed that truthful people sometimes admit things that make them look bad? They admit mistakes, they admit embarrassment, they admit poor decisions, and strangely, that can actually increase credibility. Hi, I'm Steve Van Apperen, and today we're looking at fascinating concepts associated with statement credibility analysis, the embarrassing detail test. But before we start, just a quick disclaimer, as usual, no single behaviour on its own proves deception. There are always exceptions such as stress, trauma, memory limitations, ADHD, neurodivergence, shock, different communication styles, together with cultural differences. We always need to look for groups or clusters of behaviours, not one isolated sign on its own. And of course, in serious situations, these observations should always be supported by corroborating evidence. All right, let's get stuck into it. Most people want to look good. That's human nature. We want people to see us as intelligent, competent, responsible, even likable. So when somebody voluntarily includes information that makes them look foolish, it can be interesting. Not because it proves they're telling the truth, but because it often wasn't necessary to include. Researchers involved in criteria-based content analysis found that genuine statements sometimes contain self-deprecating details that don't help the storyteller in itself, and in some cases may even hurt them. Now, let me give you an example. I got lost on the way there. Now, something like, I forgot her name, or I accidentally sent the message to the wrong person. These aren't flattering details, let's be honest. Yet truthful people often include them anyway, because they're recalling what happened, not managing an image. Let me show you some other examples. Imagine two people describing the same event. Person one says, I arrived exactly on time. Everything went smoothly. I handled everything perfectly. Possible? Sure. Now listen to person number two. I actually drove past the building, missed the entrance, had to turn around and then struggled to find a parking spot. Which sounds more human, if you like? The second one, of course. Not because it's automatically true, but because it contains imperfection. And real life is full of imperfection. Now, researchers Stellett and Konkin observed that genuine accounts often contain details that don't necessarily make the storyteller look good. Why? Because genuine memories aren't public relations campaigns. We see this with a lot of politicians, of course, especially here in Victoria, Australia, where I live. They're memories. Now let's look at another example. Imagine somebody says, I walked into the meeting and honestly, I completely misunderstood what they were asking me. Interesting. Nobody forced them to admit that. Now, they actually volunteered it. Now compare that to someone who appears flawless throughout their entire story. Always right, always prepared, always successful, never confused, never embarrassed, never even mistaken. Possible? Yeah, of course. But that's not how most real-life events work. Truthful accounts often contain little imperfections, awkward moments, misunderstandings, errors in judgment, and embarrassing details, because that's how real experiences unfold. Again, this isn't proof. Some truthful people avoid embarrassment. Some deceptive people deliberately add self-critical details. That's why context matters. But when people voluntarily include details that make them look less impressive, that can sometimes support credibility because they're describing an experience, not trying to win an award. So let's look at one final example. Imagine someone says, I thought I knew where I was going, but honestly, I got completely lost. Now that statement costs them something. It makes them look less competent, if you like. And that's exactly why it's interesting, because genuine memories often contain the things that we'd rather leave out. So let's recap. Watch for self-deprecating details, admissions or mistakes, embarrassing moments, poor decisions, and information that doesn't make the storyteller look good. Because sometimes the details that increase credibility are the very details people wish hadn't happened. Some of the references that I used in today's video is Stellett and Konkin, CBCA research, and Undeutsch hypothesis, together with Albert Vridge, detecting lies and deceit. If you found this useful, comment truth below, subscribe to the channel, and share with any of your friends that you think need to have it shared. Because once you understand human behaviour, you don't just hear what people say, you see what they're trying to hide.